Satguna Sanatana Naradete Kopishwara Prachabalasi Yogangri Padme Prema Prachana Rupadi Namo Namaste. Okay, so to begin with the class, I would like you all to just sit there and think. If there were new people, I was going to have some speak outwardly about this, but I want you to think about what is it that you truly ultimately desire or have as a goal in your life. Not just, theoretically, like, oh, we all know that, we're supposed to be going after Krishna, but really through your actions, what is your ultimate goal? What do your actions prove is your ultimate goal in life or your ultimate desire in life? Now I want you to carry that with you through this class and contemplate about that. So likely, whatever you just selected as your ultimate goal or your ultimate desire in life ultimately comes down to and ultimately is determined by how you identify yourself. Maybe I identify myself as, let's say, a chef, right? I identify myself as that. And because of that, now my ultimate goal is going to be focused on maybe making the best food for a restaurant, maybe become the top chef. Whatever it is, my desire is going to be based around that, either directly or subtly. And this identity will also come with its own activities, the way that you carry yourself, and who or how you interact with others. So maybe I identify myself in this way, and because of that, I don't want to associate myself with people that I would categorize in this manner. Or I carry myself in a specific way. If I'm a teacher, I'm going to carry myself in a certain way that someone that's not a teacher may not carry themselves. So, this all ultimately comes down to our bodily identification, generally speaking, which the body, as we all know, comes with its birth, death, old age, disease. And along with that embodiment within this body, we had to suffer things from the mind and the body. We had to suffer things from other living entities, or we suffer natural disasters or just natural phenomena. However, just like the body, this world is temporary and nothing here is permanent. So through time and situations, you'll lose absolutely everything. You'll lose your family, you'll lose your husband or wife, you'll lose your friends, you'll lose your money, all the situations that you're in, whether favorable or unfavorable, you'll lose all of these things. You came into this body with nothing, and you're going to leave this body with nothing. And there's nothing that's going to save you from that. Not your PhD, not your money, not your family, not all these things that you set up in your life to make you feel secure here. Nothing will save you. So this reminded me of this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 2:14, in which it is said that persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they do not see their inevitable destruction. So all the time, we are seeing death. We are seeing things change. We are seeing things end and begin. Yeah, we're wanting something permanent. But oftentimes we're too involved into these different identities we've created for ourselves. We're too involved with the things that result from those identities, my relations with people, my job, whatever the case may be. However, death is always by your side. Actually, at every single moment, your body's decaying. And either you'll die from that old age or death will come before that. So, oftentimes we like to push away death, like, tomorrow I'll do this, or a week from now I'll do that, a year from now I'll do this. But you're dying at every moment, and not a single moment is guaranteed to you. You could leave this room and slip on something, hit your head, and die. Someone could come in this room and shoot it up. You are not guaranteed a single second, a single extra breath. It's not guaranteed to you. So we create so many goals, ambitions, and desires for so many things, but ultimately, what will these things amount to? So this brings into question, if you haven't already, then what is the ultimate goal? To get enriched or die trying? Is it dharma, artha, kama, or moksha? That being religiosity. I come to the temple. I'm great devotee. You see me with chanting my rounds and got perfect tilak and nice dhoti, and every now and then I might make a donation, or I'm doing it good at work. I just got a promotion the other day. I got a nice house, beautiful wife, or I'm on my way to get liberated. So a lot of people try to make these things their ultimate focus, whether, as I said earlier, whether consciously or subconsciously, they're making these things their goal, because your actions speak louder than what your ideal would be. So we think, I want to get this position at work. I want to get this degree at school. I want to grow my muscles bigger. I want to go to this country, speak that language, join this community, and so more. So much more. But, these things aren't necessarily bad in themselves. But when we make these our main or only goal, this is where we start to have a problem. So you could question yourself, if I were to die right now, would anything I've done, is anything I'm doing, or anything that I'm striving for ultimately going to matter at the time of death? Will any of these things that I'm making out to be way bigger, are they going to matter? Oftentimes we're so focused in on just this situation, this lifetime. I'm so worried about paying the bills. I'm so worried about how people view me, how people think of me, what they say about me. I'm so involved in all these things constantly. I'm not happy with myself because of this. I'm not happy because of that. Or what am I going to do if this situation happens? We're either in those situations or we concoct some situation on our mind. But overall, what is it going to matter after your death? Generally, most things won't matter. So, this is where our human life actually began, is when we started asking these questions. And the fact that we're all here, we've either asked these questions in this life or in a previous life to get where we're at currently here, trying to figure these things out. So we should be making the most out of this human form of life, asking deeper questions. And if we ask these questions sincerely, ultimately we'll get the answer to these questions in one form or another. Maybe we read in Shastra, maybe we hear from the sadhus, or maybe we get personal experience that confirms whatever it is that we're questioning. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 22, that as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So currently we're in the material world in a specific body, and we're misidentifying with it, just as one could misidentify with their clothes. You know, we don't go around saying, look, I'm a white shirt, he's a blue shirt, she's a purple shirt. We don't go around talking like that because we know that we're not what we're wearing. But oftentimes, we'll still go around and say, you know, I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm Nepali, um, I'm a salesman, I'm a doctor, whatever the case may be. We come up with these different identities that have absolutely nothing to do with us. And this kind of reminds me back in school. I don't know if they still do this or if any of you had to go through this, but you know, oftentimes at the beginning of the year, they ask you to write down like, who are you, right? They're like, who are you? And you had to come up with, well, you know, I identify myself as like, you know, I'm a cowboy. I'm a big rock star fan. So many different things. I'm a Raiders fan, whatever the case may be. We had to come up with some idea. But at least personally, but I think deep down, all of us kind of felt that ultimately none of these things that I'm writing down are me. I think ultimately everyone has this feeling to some extent or another that I identify these things as myself, but ultimately, in a sense, I know that I'm none of these things. Because all these have to do with the body. This has nothing to do with your soul. And when we identify with the body, we're in a delusional state. With this body, we're thinking in terms of me and mine, and anything in relation to that. So, because I'm in this body, I identify myself as this race, this gender, this ethnicity, um, this nationality, and so on. And anything in relation to it, this is my family, this is my country, this is my house. This starts to become not just an inner identification, but it starts to become more external based on things around us. But ultimately, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita in 15:7, that the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So Krishna tells us that we're his eternal fragmental parts. And being that we're his eternal fragmental parts coming from him means that we have the same quality, but not to the same quantity. Krishna is Satchit Ananda, and we're Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. But none of us in our current state can say that we're fully experiencing these things. We took a birth, so right there, we're not eternal. Because eternal means it's always existed and always will exist. But we took a birth, and with birth is going to come death. Knowledge, we don't know everything in this world. And blissful, well, if we were blissful, there would never be a bad day for us. We'd always be happy. We'd always be experiencing great joy. So, are not experiencing these things tells us that we have an illness. If we're not experiencing these things, we have an illness. And so a little over 500 years ago, great saint, Sanatana Goswami, he posed some questions to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about life. He asked Lord Chaitanya, who am I? Why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? If I do not know this, how can I be benefited? So, Lord Sanatana Goswami, he was a great saint, and he was what's known as a Nitya Siddha. He was always liberated. He already knew these things ultimately, but still, just to show an example, he went to a proper person in knowledge of this and asked these questions, as we should. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu answered him, saying that it is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna, because he is the marginal energy of Krishna and a manifestation simultaneously one with and different from the Lord, like a molecular particle of sunshine or fire. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. So right here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just answered two fundamental questions of who are we and why we're here in the material world experiencing pains that we're experiencing. And so he goes on. In the Vedic literatures, Krishna is the central point of attraction, and his service is our activity. To attain the platform of love of Krishna is life's ultimate goal. Therefore, Krishna, Krishna's service, and love of Krishna are the three great riches of life. In all revealed scriptures, beginning with the Vedas, the central point of attraction is Krishna. When complete knowledge of him is realized, the bondage of Maya, the illusory energy, is automatically broken. So here, two other major questions just got answered of what is the ultimate goal of life and how do we get out of bondage and illusion. So the real fact of the matter is that we're eternal loving servants of Krishna, and this is our constitutional position, or our Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana meaning eternal, and Dharma meaning intrinsic nature, something you can't take away. You can't take away the wetness of water, you can't take away the heat of fire. Similarly, you can't take out this love and this service attitude from the soul. And we see that even in animal species, the parents usually serve their children or vice versa. We see this in our state. We're always trying to serve people, whether it's our boss, our family, ourselves, or an animal. We're constantly serving something. And we're all looking for love. Everyone's endeavoring for love, and the supreme object of love is Krishna. However, due to our forgetfulness of him, we are trying to love so many things, and people ultimately end up frustrated by this. Because being that we're coming from Krishna, we have that loving relationship with Krishna, that's where our love is meant to go. That is where our service is meant to go. But when we don't have that, we're trying to put that elsewhere, we become frustrated. So when we don't have that pure love for Krishna, this is because it's being pervertedly reflected here in the material world as lust. That the material world's perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So, there are such things as there being a personality, not just oneness or voidness. There's trees, there's varieties of things, there's eatables, so many things. It's just a perverted reflection of that. So similarly, our love here gets perverted into lust. So now when we enter any kind of relationship, whether that's with our parents or our children, our relationship with our significant other, or our friendships, usually there's lust behind it. It's more of a, what do I get out of this? How do you serve me? This is the perversion here. In the spiritual world, we serve Krishna. We're servants of Krishna. When the material world, we're here to be served. We want to be the ones receiving the service. So because of that attitude, all our relationships are filled with this lust of, I want to be served. So nothing is ever sweet because I'm always searching how to get served from everyone. But no matter what what you chase after, no matter who you try to serve, no one or nothing is going to fill that Krishna-shaped hole, not even in your heart, not even 1%. No matter who else we decide to serve or reflect or love, we'll never get that everlasting or complete satisfaction, because it's acting out of line with our true self. It's like trying to make a dog act like a fish. I put a dog in a fish tank, it will swim for a little bit, but ultimately that dog will drown. So similarly, we're trying to act out of our position. We're loving servants of God, but now we're trying to be the ultimate lords. We're trying to be God ourselves and be served. And therefore, we're going to drown. We're going to drown in the ocean of material existence. So this life is like a love story between you and Krishna, whether that's in a conjugal way, like boy and girl, or whether that's in a friendship way, or like one with their parents and the children, or whatever relationship that is. This is ultimately a love story between you and Krishna, you and God. Because ultimately, birth after birth, life after life, is you and Krishna. Because the people in your life right now, your family, your friends, there's no guarantee that you're going to have them in your next life if you take another birth. There's no guarantee that you'll get to see them in your next life. Who knows what you'll get in your next life? However, Krishna, regardless, is with you in every single birth, waiting with you, observing with you, fulfilling your desires, whatever they may be. Even if he doesn't want it for you, he's fulfilling those desires just to, he's like, if you think that's what's going to make you happy, I'll fulfill that for you. But I'm going to be right here, and I'm going to try to convince you to come to me. So he comes so many times and sends so many people to try to reclaim us, regardless of what country, language, culture, understandings, or so forth. And this is part of his love. He never gives up on us. We gave up on him so many times. Even in this life, there's probably been moments where we gave up on Krishna. Like, all right, you know what? Obviously, you're not doing anything, so I'm going to have to do it on my own. Or I feel like you just don't care. But Krishna cares so much so that he's come in so many incarnations. He's given us so many different methods of coming to him. He sends so many people here to the material world to come save us. And because of that, we also have so many different religions to meet people where they're at. So many. Okay, you know what? You can't keep up with living this standard. All right, let me make a concession for you. Let me send down someone to help you connect with me through this method. Okay, you can't do that. How about this? Okay, you can't do that. How about this? So he's constantly sitting down people so that even if we can't take to the direct process, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you cannot follow the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, just try to work for me, because by working for me, you'll come to the perfect stage. So he sends down all these people in which we could take some process wherever we're at, so that we could do at least some type of service to slowly come to that perfectional stage. So we have all these different religions. If we analyze them in the broad sense, they're to bring you closer to God. But in a deeper sense, they're ultimately supposed to lead you to know God, love God, and serve God. And it's easy to get caught up in the details, but the goal is the main point. We get caught up in the details. Well, you know what? In this religion, it says this about creation. It says creation was built like this, or it says that you should carry yourself like this, or so many different things. And if you look at that, yeah, you could cause so many different problems to say, you know what, your religion's false, mine's the only right one, and so forth. But ultimately, you're missing the point. What is the main goal in your religion? Main goal, if it's a bona fide religion, is to know God, love God, and serve God. And you see that in those religions. You see people at different levels. You see people that they're at the level of just Niyamagraha. They're just there following the rules and regulations for the sake of following them. Or you got people that aren't following them at all, but they follow some of them and think they're so proper. Or you got people that are actually sincerely trying to know God, love God, and serve God. And so within every tradition, you see you got those saintly type of people. Christianity, Islam, so many different religions. They also have their saints and saintly people. So the point is to love God, and this can be developed through bhakti yoga. Ultimately, no matter what religion it is, it only works because of bhakti, that loving devotion. So in the seventh canto, this is a famous one. Prahlad Maharaj defines 9 processes of bhakti yoga, in which he says, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord's one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the mind, body, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. So the only reason that any of these religions work is because that they focus on some of these or more than some of these points of hearing, chanting, serving with the mind and body, all these things. And that's because ultimately this Krishna consciousness is not a religion. It's the science. Prabhupada stressed time and time again that this is the science. This is the spiritual science. If you put this and this together, you get this result. This is how science works. And if that's true, then I should be able to give that to someone else and they get a similar result. And it should be able to be repeated. So these processes, especially beginning with hearing and chanting, are most important. They're going to be what reawakens that love for us. So hearing and chanting are the first that are mentioned, because only through this can we actually really begin spiritual life. Hearing, especially, we don't know anything in the beginning. Generally speaking, we don't know. So we go to people that do know and we hear. We go to a class and we hear. Reading is also a type of hearing. We hear the holy name. And then through that, we're able to get to the point of chanting or glorifying. Now I've been given the names of God, I could chant them. Now I've been given the knowledge of God, so I could preach it, I could speak it. And through that comes smaranam, or remembering. Now that I'm able to do these 2 things, I'm able to remember God constantly. Because I chant his names constantly, I speak about him constantly, I hear about him constantly. And in this age, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has so mercifully given us the process to, we chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He's given us this process, especially. It's been mentioned in scripture, and it's mentioned even outside of the Vedas in so many religions, that one should chant the names of God. And in the Vedic text, it gives us this Maha Mantra. Maha, the greatest, and Mantra, release or deliverance of the mind. So we're generally so caught up in our head. Actually, most of us live on the mental platform. Animals, they live more on a bodily platform. They're focused on, I gotta eat, I gotta protect, I gotta make sure I stay alive. Whereas like the humans, most of the time we're thinking about what someone said to us, we're thinking about what we gotta do, we're thinking about so many things. living in this platform. We're thinking about the past, we're thinking about the future. So the Mahamantra delivers us from both the physical and the mental platform, and takes us to a transcendental platform of directly associating with Krishna himself, with God himself. And through this process, where since God and his names, paraphernalia, pastimes are non-different, we're also purifying ourselves. Just like when you put iron in a fire, iron's a different quality, but when it's in association of fire for an extended period, it becomes red hot. And when it touches anything, it burns just like fire. So when we're associating with the Supreme Personality of God, who is the most pure, then we can be rest assured that by being associated with the most pure, we also become purified by that process. And through that, we're able to see ourselves and Krishna simultaneously. Without the sun, you can't see yourself. Without any light, you can't see yourself. But when the sun comes up, you simultaneously see the sun and see yourself. So similarly, when we chant this name, it's like the rising of the sun. We see God and we see ourselves as well. And nothing, no, I don't want to go there yet. Yeah. I wasn't going to get into this, but since we got some time, our chanting can ultimately reflect as well our relationship with Krishna. And we can see it from an external point as well. I was just reflecting on this today, because oftentimes we get put in situations that we get to kind of get an idea of what Krishna goes through, what he's experiencing with us rejecting him. If you're being rejected by people, well, you've rejected Krishna so many times. If people aren't hearing you and what you're saying, well, when you've been chanting, have you actually been attentive with him? When he's present before you, are you attentive with him? When you don't speak about Krishna, maybe you realize as well that people don't really speak about you. You're kind of like left in the background. Oh, well, Krishna gives you that reminder if you do the same to me. We can see our relationship with Krishna reflected in our relationship with people around us. Ultimately, when we look at things on a deeper perspective, on that kind of level, I was thinking of this while I was chanting. I was like, wow, okay, Krishna, this is what you must be experiencing, because I am doing this to you. And now I'm kind of getting an idea of what that actually feels like. All right, this is happening. And now I see that, you're in a friendship, but they only come to you when they want something. It's like, okay, Krishna, well, I realized that I've used to only come to you when I wanted something. I used to only talk to you when I needed something or I wanted to know something. So if we want a complete relationship with others and with Krishna, we got to really focus on how we treat Krishna. Because how we treat Krishna is going to reflect in how we treat other people. If I treat Krishna with the utmost love and respect, then you'll be able to see that and how I interact with other people. You'll see that. But if I am cruel to other people, or I don't notice them, I don't acknowledge them, or things like this, then you could probably tell that I don't have that good of a relationship with Krishna either. So all in all, everything has to do, it all comes down to love. That's ultimately what all this endeavor is for. That's what Prabhupada came over here for. Prabhupada came because we forgot how to love God. We forgot God in general. we pushed him to the side. And so he came to bring that love that we've forgotten. This whole Krishna consciousness movement is ultimately about love of God. Lord Chaitanya came just so that we could get love of God, not just knowledge of God, not just liberation, but love of God. So that's the whole point, and oftentimes I think it's easy for us to mistake that. But if we're to give ourselves to Krishna, we have nothing to lose. You know, we give ourselves to so many different things in this material world. We try to love so many different things, but oftentimes we get nothing in return, or we get minimal in return. I put so much into this, and then I only get like a little bit out of it. But Krishna isn't quite like that. Krishna says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, that since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? Krishna's after our hearts ultimately. He also says in third canto that the mind's natural duty is to serve, and when that service spirit is engaged in devotional services to the personality of God without any motive, that is far better than even salvation itself. So any work done on the material platform has to be finished, otherwise it's a failure. But if one starts on the spiritual platform, wherever they leave off, they'll get a keep with them. You leave off with 1%, you start with 1% in your next life. Krishna kind of goes further into this idea in the Bhagavad Gita, where chapter 6, verse 43, where Krishna says, on taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life and again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. So unless you take the spiritual life, everything will be taken away before death. And this makes the most sense, right? So anything material ends with the body. Anything in relation to the body ends with the body, but anything spiritual carries on with the spirit, with the soul. Anyways, I think we'll end there. I didn't quite have everything that I was planning for if it was with just devotees, but I think we'll end there if there's any comments or questions. Otherwise, we'll just take prasad. Okay, Kirtan.
Thank you so much. It's a beautiful here. Deep knowledge. Very nice class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anything else before we end? Okay, I think we'll end here. Thank you all so much for listening. Now let's honor some prasadam. Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
God, very well.